That's it for chapter 10. He got rid of the southern cities. In chapter 11, he does the same thing to the northern cities.
Oh, Pastor?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought that was interesting, your notes about hamstringing the horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought they actually hamstrung them, not gelded them.
That's what I thought too. I thought they would cut their hamstrings, which to me would be really awful, because then the horses would pretty much die because they couldn't eat. But in this case, they just castrated them, which I don't know why it makes them unsuitable for war as a chariot horse, unless there's some religious thing about you have to have a certain type of horse to be a chariot horse. Because
I could see less testosterone means the less brave horse to carry you than the less muscular horse.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Did you guys hear what Rich said?
No.
Okay, Rich said that by castrating the horse wouldn't have as much testosterone as he had before, so he wouldn't have the courage to run into battle and follow the commands, and he would be weakened also. That makes a good point.
Yeah, they're much calmer, less fiery.
Okay.
Gene had horses.
You mentioned outside sources substantiating Bible stuff.
Yeah.
We had an Egyptian exchange adult stay with us for a week, and I had just been to see Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I was all excited about that because it was such a wonderful show.
Uh-huh.
And so he said that he knew that story from some other source than the Bible. And I don't know, I can't remember whether it was Egyptian history or whether it was a faith of his, which I don't remember what it was.
Sure.
He knew the story about Joseph and the pharaohs and his brothers coming and all that sort of thing. And it was not he didn't learn it from the Bible.
So he knew it from...
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's probably one of those oral traditions that were around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover too. You know, they call Abraham the father of three faiths.
Yep, and he is, because Ishmael, well, that's the branch of the Muslim faith. The Jewish faith is obvious, and of course through Jesus, Abraham is the father of the Christian faith too.
There's a movement underway that they've got a trail of Abraham that's supposed to unite the three religions in pilgrimage.
Take it for what it's worth, Rich. I don't know. It could be.
If it turned into a peaceful pilgrimage, that would be okay.
Yeah.
That would be okay.
They didn't hear.
Pastor,
Yes, sir.
Wikipedia says that hamstringing is a method of crippling a person or animal so that they cannot walk properly by severing the hamstring tendons in the thigh of the individual.
That's our use of it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that they were talking about. But the hamstringing that was done to the horses, that's when they just castrated them. Because that's Wilbur, that's why I thought it was so terrible that they would hamstring the horse, which would make it unable to walk, and then the horse would starve. Good points. But I'm going to have to include that in my footnotes. Castrating the horse would weaken the horse, and like Gene
Take the
said,
fire out of them.
Yeah.
make
That's
them more
right.
timid.
Oh.
Very cool. See, that's what happens when you grow up on a farm and have horses. You know all this stuff.
Well, and it's not a real quick procedure. They'd have to subdue the horse, probably laying him down.
Oh, wow.
And so it doesn't just happen as quick as hamstringing would happen.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because they talk, when you watch some of those bed shows, they do that once in a while, all kinds of stuff.
Well,
And they'd have less muscle mass too. 'cause
That's true.
Yeah.
Mitch Vincent said that when they used to do it with pigs, they would just wrap something around the testicles till they
Oh, yeah,
You know,
dropped off.
dropped off.
Yeah. Huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
Well, that seems like a better way to go.
Well, yeah, slower, probably maybe gentler, less blood.
They would do that when they were very tiny,
Oh, okay.
like they were maybe a week old at the most,
Oh,
And why would they do that, Wilbur?
because they don't want a lot of boars around. They want them for feeding purposes to sell, market.
Oh, okay.
And so they can do that very easily when they're very tiny.
Sure, sure.
honey, we had a farm, didn't we? In Arlington
Africa,
Heights?
right? Yeah, in
Yeah,
Africa.
no, we have no clue.
Yeah, we don't have a clue. That's why I learned a lot in Wisconsin.
How to
And
float
I'm
a cow.
Yeah, how to float a cow,
Mhm.
and I'm learning more even now. So thank you guys very much.
and on your farm in Africa, you had a what? E-I-E-I-O?
Yeah, well, no, there's that movie with Meryl Streep,
Oh, out of,
I had a farm
Out
in
of
Africa.
Africa.
yeah.
Yeah, out
I
of
had a
Africa.
farm
I've seen that.
in Africa.
They
It's a
grew
pretty good
coffee.
Yeah,
They
it's a
grew
good
coffee.
It's a good movie. Her husband's a pig.
He should have been castrated.
He should have
Anyway,
been castrated. Anyway,
Sorry.
we digress.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
oh well.
Oh well, yeah. And more of the same. Verse 10, at that time Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword. Hazor was king of all, head of all the kingdoms. Everybody in it, they put to the sword, blah, 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 totally destroyed them, blah, blah, blah. But we know that they had to do this. And in doing it, Joshua was able to, verse 16, take the entire land. The hill country, the Negev, the whole region of Goshen, the western foothills, the Arabah, the mountains of Israel. Joshua was able to get the entire promised land like God promised Abram.
So where
How
did
long do you think this took?
7 years.
7 years exactly. Well, maybe not exactly, but around 7 years. Verse 18 tells us Joshua waged war against all the kings for a long time. And in one of the commentaries I read, it told us that it took him 7 years. Verse 21, at that time, Joshua went and destroyed the Anakites from the hill country, from Hebron, Debir, and Anab, and all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua totally destroyed them and their towns. No Anakites were left in Israel territory. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did any survive. Why is it important that Joshua got rid of the Anakites?
Well, they weren't of the same faith.
They weren't of the same faith.
They were the giants.
They were the giants.
Oh,
They
that's
were
right.
they weren't the only reason, because we know that the 10 spies, besides Joshua and Caleb, were just cowards. They were the excuse that the 10 spies made for not going into the promised land back in Numbers. Because remember, they came back and they said, they're giants, we can't defeat them, blah, blah, blah. So in Numbers chapter 13, verses 31 through 33, these are the giants that they were talking about. So the second generation, when I read this, I took it that the second generation out of Egypt had more faith in God and had no fear of the Anakites. When they saw them, they didn't run away because they believed what God told them.
Well, by that time they had conquered and killed so many.
Yeah, but these were big guys.
Right, but the sun stood still back 2 years ago, so they kept going.
But
Wow.
the Israelites in the past, the Red Sea opened up for them. God fed them every day. Their clothes didn't wear off, and it still wasn't enough.
So what happened then to Israel that they lost it all?
You mean after this?
Yeah.
They continued to sin, as we're going to see
Mm.
throughout the Bible. Christy raises a good point. She says, at this time, the Israelites have the entire promised land, so what happened? Why did they have all these troubles? And as we're going to find out, as we continue to go through the Old Testament, they continued to sin. God said, you don't need a king, you have me. The Israelites looked around and says, well, everybody else has kings. Why can't we have one? So God gave them kings, and they didn't have any good kings. David started out good, Solomon started out good, but they had their faults. So then they went through that period. And we're going to see that the Israelites, the Hebrews, continue to sin. God continues to forgive them, just like God continues to forgive us. So it goes on. It goes on. So that was really fast. I'll look ahead at chapters 12, 13, and 14 to see if we can add extra chapters and get through Joshua faster, and that'll get us closer to starting Mark for Lent, which I think would be kind of cool. So.
Okay.